body camera clips during his closing arguments, which was a bold sort of Hail Mary thing to do, considering how traumatic they are, right? But it's been good. It's been good to have the tweets and the sort of the written coverage and all of that, because we wanted to help people, because everyone, in the community wanted to follow the twists and the turns without necessarily being exposed to that painful audio and video so directly. So we tried to do that and put a lot of effort into like that tweeting, into like that, condensing of everything. And I think that was helpful. I think that really helped everybody kind of process this thing. So we do really appreciate that. We appreciate your support.
We saw them coming out of their businesses, slapping up these barriers, painting over them, so they knew and they were prepared for when this verdict came in to board up their businesses, shut it down for the day. A lot of them also saying they're going to be shut down tomorrow as well. But earlier in the day, my photographer Joe and I, we were actually over in George Floyd Square. We wanted to talk to people about what they were feeling, were they anxious, and I can tell you everyone was on pins and needles. A lot of locals were going over to George Floyd Square because they said they wanted to feel something. They were sitting at home doing what we were all doing, doom scrolling on their phones, trying to see what was happening, whether the jury was asking any questions, whether they had reached a verdict. People said they just could not sit at home, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of people who were already in the downtown area now headed down. We did see a couple people headed away on foot, as I said, trying to get out again. So as I mentioned, we are a couple blocks away from the courthouse right now. Things were very, very quiet as we drove in. Now they are very, very busy as people are trying to drive out as we await a verdict. Not sure which way it's going to go. Not sure how people are going to react. We're a couple blocks away. We're going to move in a little bit closer just to see where people are at, how they are reacting here on the ground. But I can tell you again, on South Marquette and 8th Street, all of the businesses are boarding up. People are trying to go home. I heard a little earlier in the broadcast, we said that the government buildings, everybody told their employees to go home. They were shutting down for the day. We heard some bells tolling. So there's definitely a lot of activity, even a couple blocks away from the courthouse, as everyone has been so anxious all day to find out what's going to happen when this verdict comes in. We're going to stay here on the ground and we'll bring you the updates.
Madison, I love the juxtaposition that you've noticed of some people trying to get out of downtown as fast as they can and others trying to get into downtown as fast as they can. And all of those businesses obviously on edge, boarding up, and we appreciate your perspective and insights tonight. Stand by. We'll check back later. Thank you, Madison. Right now we want to bring in our Jana Shortle. She, as well as all of us, but more than most, has been watching this trial every day, and she's joined right now by someone she would like to talk to. Jana?
Thanks, Julie. I'm joined by Dr. Yahuru Williams. Dr. Williams has been a part of the breaking the news coverage of this for the last 3 weeks. And what we've tried to do, Dr. Williams and I, in our talks, and Dr. Williams can give insight into this, is not talk about what's inside the courtroom. We want to talk about what's outside the courtroom, because this trial is affecting all of us in Minneapolis and St. Paul, in every suburb, in every town, the entire state, the entire country, the entire world. So Dr. Williams, take us outside the courtroom right now, 10 minutes from verdict.
I think it's important, Janice, we've been talking about, to recognize, as you said, that this is much bigger than what happens in terms of the outcome in this particular case. Justice for George Floyd is essential, but as a community, we have to talk about what life will be back like in the Twin Cities post this verdict. And the larger question for us is the third.
Maybe we can call him though. Give me a second, guys. How you doing, man? We inquired about a friend. He got arrested.
We're inquiring about a friend that got arrested, and we want to know.
No, I don't have a phone. I don't have a phone.
We don't have phone, then we just come to the lobby with you. The lobby is closed. But it says for people only in the lobby. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have a cell phone?
No, I don't.
First name Stephen.
So, yeah, guys, so we're inquiring. Alcor audits, what's up? Yep, that's it. Alcor, that's what you never show that.
Develop processes and systems that can continue to keep themselves up. At GFS, every day there's a meeting in the morning and a meeting in the night. And that has been one of the ways that like community has really, really developed. And like you look around here, you see like bus stops turned into storage, bus stops turned into the people's closet. You see bookshelves going up. You see we've got a medical shed. We've got a greenhouse.
We've got a library. 612 MASH is a medic organization that operates out of the square. And there's this People's Way. This is a public space. You know, it's a public meeting space, and it's a public space of a real like community and joy. And unity, and it's a sacred space, you know, and it's a space of grieving and also of liberation. And so for people who are coming in here, you know, people come from all over. It's almost a pilgrimage site in that way. I think it's something really to be said about how the common spaces and collectively maintained spaces have been like eroded by capitalism. You can see this is a return of the commons in a lot of ways.
In the ruins of capitalism, we've built something new, and something that sort of leaders in the square, Marsha especially, has said before. This is a blueprint for how society can be. You know, how society can be organized, how we can develop community and come here together and meet the needs of the community. Because every day there are people who are unhoused who will come here sort of to find sanctuary. They'll come here and they'll get fed, they'll get clothed, and they'll get resources to get housed. And that's a thing that literally the state has been unable to provide. And the fact that community has been able to come in and fulfill that role it spells out exactly why this is the way of the future and not the way of the state.
It looks like many things at many times a day if you've been in this square. But in all those hours of every day, it still looks like community. It's community.
I'm out here with my passion. I'm out here for my feelings, or because somebody else told me to, or somebody had to convince me to be out here, or somebody to convince for me to stay out here every day. No, I made up my mind when it all happened, and this is home. Like, look, this is home. I done ran down these streets.
In my first meeting that I came with a close friend of mine, I was instantly sold, because how they embrace black people, especially the black man in this community, I mean, it's beautiful. I've never had a chance to experience this much black love in you know, in the area. No hatred, no undercutting. They just want to see the success of a black man here, and that's pretty much what brought me here.
What made me start was at the uprising, the space was filled with hundreds and hundreds of people. So I came out during the evenings, about 5-ish, and stayed till like maybe 6 a.m. or something like that. I barbecued right on the street every night at 9:45, especially when they broke out the curfew. When they broke out the curfew, we had to be in the house at about 10 p.m., or we're going to get a citation and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, we ain't going home. Spark grills at 9:45 and barbecue until I ran out of food. Costly, very, very costly, because barbecue is not cheap whatsoever, but it kept the square fed at the time. Food makes people happy. Food brings people together. I didn't think I was going to come out here and be feeding people for 6 months. No. I don't get paid for what I do. That's just off the genuine of my heart. Just like if we needed to secure the space and make sure it needed to be secured. Until we find out exactly who's going to do that all day, every day, I'll take some of my time.
If you're stationed on a barricade, it's keeping an eye out for the police.
We're going to hold this down. They got an army, we got our own army. It don't matter. They want to call this the United States. It's not the United States. We're not with the system. We are showing them how united we can actually be. So as of that, we're going to be careful and be aware. And to be aware is to be alive. So be careful out here. In every state. For real. Be well protected. And that's all I got to say. Now I'm going to have to watch out for everybody.
And it's, opening and closing for residents coming in and out. At certain barricades have like gates that we open and close so people can still get in and out of the space to their homes. We're not trying to inconvenience anybody. We have masks, bottled water, snacks, basic resources like this that we'll pass out to people and we'll greet people coming into the space. I think like the sort of first importance of this space is as a memorial, as a sacred space for grieving a black man who was murdered by the state. And I think it's also grown into a really like powerful autonomous community of mutual aid, and really not just envisioning but enacting a community that is as free as we can be from policing and from the United States as a settler colonial fascist government.
GFS it's kind of the epicenter of an uprising, right? And it's been operating very well as a staging ground for other types of struggles that are ongoing in the area, whether that be stuff for Line 3, whether that be stuff in the housing movement, all types of racial justice movements. It's been sort of a center for activists all across the city.
There's many memorials in this space. The biggest ones are for George Floyd, but there's also the Street of Names and Say Their Names Cemetery, which are both